I get it, you're staring at a shelf of carpet extractors and wondering if you're about to drop a few $100 on a machine that will sit idle in the garage, or if it's the tool that will actually shave hours off your next big job. The fear of buying the wrong thing is real, especially when the equipment you pick can mean the difference between a quick turnover and a day-long nightmare for a client. I've spent the last week digging through specs, watching a handful of demo videos, and talking to a couple of pros who actually use heated extractors on the daily. So let's cut through the hype and see if the Mytee Contractor's special heated carpet extractor lives up to its promise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest draw for any heated extractor is the heat element. In a typical extraction, you pull up a lot of moisture, and then you're left waiting for the carpet to dry, sometimes overnight. Mytee's unit adds a built-in heater that warms the water as it's being pulled out, which can cut drying time by a noticeable margin. For a contractor who's juggling multiple jobs in a day, that reduction can translate straight into extra billable hours. In the field, I've heard techs say they can finish a 200 square foot job in under 3 hours when they run the heated mode, versus 4 or 5 without it. That's a concrete, money-making benefit if you're on the road a lot. The machine also sports water-resistant switches. It sounds like a small detail, but when you're pulling a hose across a wet floor and the extractor is sitting right there, a stray splash can ruin a cheap switch in an instant. Mytee has sealed those contacts, so you won't be scrambling to replace a fried control panel after a minor spill. For anyone who's ever had a switch melt because a puddle of water found its way onto the console, this is a genuine peace-of-mind upgrade. Mobility is another practical concern. The extractor is built on a sturdy chassis with locking casters. The casters roll smoothly when you need to move the unit from room to room, but they lock firmly once you've positioned it, preventing any unwanted drift while the pump is running at full throttle. In a commercial setting where you're pulling a hose across a polished hallway, that lock-in feature keeps the machine from nudging forward and potentially damaging the flooring or the hose connection. Speaking of hoses, the Cuff-Lynx Readiness is a small but clever inclusion. Mytee designed the inlet to accept a cuff-type connector that snaps onto most standard vacuum hoses without fiddling with clamps or tape. When you're in the middle of a job and need to swap from a wet vac to a dry vac, you can do it in a matter of seconds. The learning curve is basically non-existent, which is a real time saver when you're under pressure. The power cord has a built-in light that glows when the cord is live. It's an easy visual cue that tells you the machine is actually drawing power, which can help avoid those "why isn't it working" moments that happen when the cord is plugged in, but the breaker has tripped, or the cord is damaged. In dimly lit basements or during after-hours cleanups, that little LED can save you a few frustrating minutes. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs. The first thing you'll notice is the weight. This isn't a lightweight, handheld unit you can toss into a car trunk. The heater, pump, and reinforced frame all add up, making the whole thing sit solidly on a pallet jack or a small forklift. If you're a solo operator who needs to lug the machine upstairs to a client's apartment, you'll find it a bit of a chore. The unit shines when it's on a truck or a dedicated workshop floor, where you can roll it in and out without much effort. Power consumption is another factor. The heating element draws extra electricity, so you'll need a reliable 120-volt outlet with enough amperage to handle the load. In older buildings with older wiring, you might run into tripped breakers if you're not careful. It's not a deal breaker, but it does mean you have to plan your setup a bit more thoughtfully than you would with a non-heated extractor. Noise level is something you can't ignore either. The pump on this machine is robust, which is great for pulling water quickly, but it also means the unit can be louder than a standard wet vac. In residential settings where you're trying to keep the disturbance low, say, cleaning a hotel lobby at night, the roar can be a little unsettling. Contractors who work in commercial spaces or industrial sites where background noise is already high won't notice it as much. So who should actually invest in the Mytee Contractors special? If you run a carpet-cleaning business, a restoration company dealing with water damage, or a property management service that needs to turn over units fast, this extractor hits a sweet